Started. So, home finance. We're going to be talking about, to be honest, most of the math revolving this unit is going to be around owning a home. Like, what are some of the actual expenses you're going to incur when you own a home? We're going to though talk about the pros and cons, renting versus buying. Because not everybody like you don't, I know the push is always like buy a house, buy a house, buy a house. But for some of us, that might not be a reality. It could be a financial thing. It could be just you don't want all the responsibilities that come with owning a house. And so you're going to choose to rent. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with it. But this unit is heavier on what is involved when you buy a home, because when you rent, there's very few responsibilities. You just pay the bill, you keep living there, right? Something breaks down, landlord, there's a leak in my ceiling, right? My faucet is broken, my toilet is leaking, you name it. They do everything. When you buy, not so much, it's on you, right? So we're gonna look at that. And normally I would ask who's renting, who wants to rent, who wants to own. But I think that's your personal preference, okay? If you ever want to look at a mortgage payment calculator, you can scan this, but you can just Google it as well, right? But I wonder where this takes me. I forget if it's a specific bank. Let me see here. So if you, so you're going to pick it up, oh, Royal Bank. If you scan that, it's going to take you to a mortgage payment calculator. I would do the advanced one because you're advanced. You're not simple, right? And so here you enter how much you want to borrow. So let's say you want a house for 250,000. That's actually not very much. The housing market is pretty crazy. Like, 250,000. Most mortgages you amortize. Amortize is like how long do you want to take to pay? 25 years. So that's why it's defaulting to 25 there. But you can do it in less. Frequency, you can do monthly. Interest rates are crazy high right now. So now is not the best time to be buying a home. The government of Canada, I don't know if you heard, have you heard that inflation is crazy? Inflation. So what that means is that your money can't buy the same amount that it used to because everything costs more. So what the governments across the world are doing is they're raising interest rates for loans, mortgages, everything that has to do with borrowing. And when people buy, otherwise, if they don't raise it, people are just going to keep buying houses, and the prices are going to go up like crazy, which raises the cost of living automatically. It just affects everything else. So their way to combating that is to raise interest rates. I'm going to tell you, if you go back 15 years ago, this is a really good interest rate. Like, I bought my first house then, and I signed for like 7, and I was like, yes, I was high-fiving everybody in the hall, like everybody that I saw, because we were coming down from like 10%, 8%. So, but it came down all the way to when I signed again, every 5 years, you sign for a new term. I think I locked in at 1.9%. 1.9%. This is 6.4 right now. This is what RBC is offering. I have seen 5.4. It depends. You got to shop around when it's time. I'm not going to overwhelm you with all the details, but let's say you go for that interest rate and you sign for a 5-year term. You will take 25 years to pay, but you're locked in for 5 years at that interest rate. That's really what it's saying. So let's calculate our payment. And there's your monthly payment, $1,670. And that's just for the mortgage. No bills, like water, electricity, gas, maintenance, and more is not included there, right? So it's expensive. We didn't add a down payment, but you could have paid down a little bit more there. You can make extra payments. So you can explore that. Like, hey, if I put in an extra $100 a month, how's that going to help me? I'm going to pay it off faster. I'm going to save on interest, and you name it. But look at this. You see this number right here? My finger is covering everything here. Watch this, total interest. Remember we used to calculate the total interest with loans? If you take 25 years to pay this particular mortgage, you'd be paying $250,000 in interest. So you borrowed $250, so you're gonna pay that back and another $250. So by the time you're done paying the house in 25 years, you will have paid $500,000. Yeah. And some people are like, that's crazy. I would never do that. Guess what your house is going to be worth in 25 years? It's not going to go worth 250. It probably will be worth 500,000 or more at that point, right? So you might think of it as crazy paying this much in interest, but remember your house is usually going to go up in value too. Right? This is the cost of borrowing, right? That's why the banks are doing so well, because most of their loans are mortgages. The banks love mortgages, right? So keep that in mind. And it's depressing. When I looked at this, my first house, I was like, oh my goodness. You just pay, right? You just go back to this and just make sure you pay that. And if you ever get a chunk of money, I don't know, inheritance, maybe you win the lottery, you might pay it off faster, right? So keep that in mind. So that's the mortgage calculator. It's not the only one, but you know, you're gonna carry my book for the rest of your lives, right? You're gonna carry it everywhere, so you can just scan it. And I'm just joking. Yeah. Oh man, that's a very good question, and the answer is, I showed you how long we were signing for, right? 5 years. You cannot pay it off in those 5 years without penalty. If you were to pay it off completely, you have a penalty, and it's kind of complicated to calculate, but when it comes to that point, the banker will tell you. Like, they have a formula for that. They essentially, you have to remember, the money they borrowed, this money they borrowed you, they took it from people that are saving their money. So they're guaranteeing them some return. So they want to make sure they can do that, right? So if you pay it off faster, they're like, no, we still want the interest to pay them, right? So yeah, it's complicated. But you can pay off up to 20%. You can, penalty free. So 10% would be 25 grand, 20% would be 50 grand, right? So 50 grand you could pay off anytime within the 5 years there. Once the 5 years are over, you do whatever you want. Okay, let's go for the pros and cons. Let's go to page 3 here. And you will notice this book is rather thick because I have a lot of info in here. I have a highlighter for this part, okay? Even I need to make sure I keep my highlighting in check here. So is renting or buying better? Okay. So I'm going to talk about the advantages of buying a home in this case. When you buy a home, you have a fixed monthly payment, and it generally doesn't change. At least for a big chunk of time, it doesn't change. Your payment is your payment. Whereas I don't know how many of you know about renting, but renting, you know what? My landlord, almost every year, my rent went up by 2 to 3%. Almost every year. Oh, we redid the exterior, remember? Raise, right? Oh, we redid the carpets in the hall, remember? Raise. So it's every year they raised it. This is important. Every mortgage payment brings you closer to owning your home. When you pay rent, that money doesn't go towards home ownership. And so you're not building equity. Okay? So that would be, I will just say you build equity when you buy a home. Okay, so I'm going to explain that in more detail in a bit. You can stay as long as you like. Stay as long as you like. and you just move when you feel like you need to move. Whereas renting, the landlord could kick you out, right? Sometimes there have been instances where landlords want to bring in higher, like they want to raise the rent so much that you can't afford it, or they sell the place and the new owner says like, hey, everybody go out, we want like new tenants. They could technically do that, right? So when you buy, no such thing. You can cash in on the appreciation over time. Remember, cars depreciate, they lose value, while houses usually appreciate in value. Okay. Owning a home could have tax, right? What save tax? I think it should say save tax, but I'm just gonna leave this paragraph. There's not much here that I want to use that lines up with the province, but the next one here, you have the freedom to do home improvements as on your house as you please. Did you know that most, like when you rent, you can't even paint the walls without your landlord knowing, right? I had to ask for permission, and then they said, yeah, you can do it, but when you move out, you need to paint it back to white. I'm like, that's way too much work. No thanks. I actually ended up doing it because my wife wanted me to do it. So, happy wife, happy life, right? But anyway, so I will put some pointers down that I would like you to copy. They're quick and easy to get to. So to summarize, fixed monthly payment, because the province will often ask, hey, what are some advantages of owning a home, right? The next one is you build equity. This is, for me, one of the biggest ones. You build equity. And I will explain that word in a bit. And I will say, and eventually own the home, the house. By the way, we're not just talking house, we're also talking condos. So I would say, or condo, right? House or condo. That because it's still ownership. Another good one for a lot of you, this will be important. You may own pets. A lot of landlords do not allow you pets. I couldn't even own technically a goldfish. Like I couldn't even have a fish technically. That's what my landlord told me. And so that might be something that I wanna own my home so I don't have to worry about the dogs like damaging the walls or scratching here and there, or the cats scratching up the walls or whatever, because it's your house, right? You may be able to own a yard. A lot of people want a yard, right, to sit and relax, sit by the fire. It's a big appeal, right? Last one, you can borrow against your house. And I will say it down, you basically use equity to do that. So the banks, they love borrowing against your house. They're like, oh yeah, we'll give you, what do you want? 30 grand to buy a boat? You have a house? Yeah. Oh, sure, take it. Just go for it, right? We love it. Well, don't you want to look at my boat first? Nope, we know you have a house. You just do whatever you want. You can just spend it on candy if you want, right? They have your house. It's honestly, it sounds silly, but really they don't care. If it goes against your house, they don't care what you buy with it. You can tell them anything you want, like don't bother. They just want to make sure you own a house. Here's some advantages for renting. Okay. Should we highlight that? Advantages for renting a place. Maybe I will use orange for this part. Okay. I will say this is the biggest one. You don't need a large down payment when you rent. For a house, you need a minimum of 5% down these days. Okay. Another one is you're able to if you have to relocate often because of your work, then consider renting. Right? It's easier to relocate. When you own a house, you have to first sell it, and then you might have to pay a penalty, so forth. Another one is the flexibility for where to live. And this one is more, it's kind of saying like if you really want to live in an area where it's way too expensive to buy a house, like Tuxedo or anywhere there, buying a house is super expensive. But you may be able to afford a rent, right? You could be renting a room or a basement or something like that. That's becoming more and more of a thing. Okay, when you there's fewer upfront costs, less upfront costs. Let's highlight that. And you don't have to pay for maintenance. Yeah, which is huge. If I go to Home Depot to do anything, I just need to fix a little something. I'm not kidding you. It's $50 usually. Like almost anything. It seems insignificant. Like $50. So let's summarize this. You don't need a large down payment. Initial startup costs are much lower. You need to put a deposit down, by the way, for rent. Rent usually it's like a one full month worth of rent. You need to put it down as a deposit. But when you move out and they do an inspection and everything looks all right, you usually get that back, right? Much easier to relocate if needed. Sure, it's still a bit of a pain because usually you sign for a year. When you rent, your lease might be a year, so you have to find someone to take over your lease. But it's still a lot easier to do that. Okay. Lower maintenance. And I say it should technically be much lower maintenance. But light bulbs and such, I think you're still responsible for that. Right? This is a big one here. Utilities. What are utilities? That would be water, electricity, gas, cable are usually included. I think the cable part is a hit and miss, but I know people that live in apartments where there's even free Wi-Fi, right? You don't even pay for internet. So quite often utilities like water, electricity, and gas is usually included. Like you don't have to worry about leaving your window open while your heater is going because when we rented when our boys were very little, so it was bathtub every day, like just have a bath every day because big deal. So that's kind of nice not having to worry about it. So now we're going to move into, I just want to define what equity is, or at least explain to you what equity is, because you are going to hear it more and more as you get older. So it's important to have that. So let's go to page 7. So I just summarize again right? The pros and cons of renting and buying. So let's go to page 7. There's a big word, equity. And this is the best I could come up with. Okay? What in the world is equity? So try to pay attention as much as you can here. This is a very simplified example. So let's say on page 7, the value of your home is $100,000. You were able to save up 60 grand, so you put that down towards the house, which means that you would still owe 40 grand. Okay, so the 60,000 at the very beginning is that's your initial equity. Okay, so let's put down, you put down 60K. Right? Let's just talk like that. You put down 60K, so that's your initial equity. But what happens, let's make a line if you can. If you don't have a ruler, just use your credit cards. I meant to say student cards. So let's imagine this is our 100,000 line here. If you ever get a credit card, guys, it's not free money, okay? Unlike you. Okay, so this is our 100K mark here. This would be if the house stayed flat at 100,000, the value would be right here, staying right there. But what happens to the value of the home most of the time? It steadily increases. This line should probably be more like this, zigzag. Sometimes it goes down a bit, but in Winnipeg, in Canada, for the most part, the housing market has been, the house values have just been increasing steadily. So let's make a cross cut at any point. So let's say we're right about here, and you make a line like this across. I will make a bar out of it. Remember bar graphs in grade 11? Your favorite unit probably? No, yeah, I don't know. I don't mind it. So let's say your house is now worth $120,000. This is the value of your home at that point. That means that from the 100,000 to that point, that means that we now have an extra 20K accumulated in value. And let's say over time, why is this line going down, guys? Why is this line slowly going down? That's right. You started owing 40 grand, but you make monthly payments, correct? So the amount you owe is decreasing. So let's say at this point, you only owe 20K, not 40. Okay. So look at this. Your equity started as 60 grand. That was your equity there. But now it is from here all the way to there. It has increased. You can tell by the orange bar that it's bigger. What is my equity right now? Follow me here. If the value of the home is 120,000 now, right? And you owe 20,000. If you were to sell there, you would actually have $100,000 in equity. Can you take this whenever you want? Can you take the 100 grand and just buy what? Technically, it's locked into the house, but the banks love it. They'll be like, "Hey, you have $100,000 worth of equity. You wanna tour Europe? You wanna like renovate? You wanna buy a new car? Because right, like whatever you want, we'll give you money because we know you have 100,000 in that house, and whenever you decide to sell it." Right, you can pay it back that way, or you just pay us off over time. It's okay. They have that guarantee standing beside it. Let's do one more. Way down the road, let's say over here. Let's say the value of the home is now $170,000. That means that from the 100,000 line to the value, it has increased $70,000. And let's say at this point you only owe, I'm going to make an arrow going into that little sliver here. Let's say you only owe $5,000 at that point. What's your equity in this case? 165. That's right. So there's a double effect happening here. 165,000 equity. There are two things that are happening. The value of the home is going up, and at the same time you're paying it off. So that's why you have that wedge happening, that pizza slice, right? Pizza. Right? So maybe a student will walk in again and give us more pizza. Who knows? But I hope you understand equity at this point. That's how equity works. And that's why people buy houses. Okay? So I will, in my own words, I'll tell you one more time. Equity is the amount of money you would keep if you were to sell the house and pay off the remaining mortgage. That's basically what you need to remember. Equity is the amount of money you would keep if you were to sell the house, pay off what you still owe, and then move on, right? But you shouldn't be doing that unless you have a plan in mind. Because as soon as you have cash in your hands, it actually will depreciate over time, right? $100 today will not be the same as $100 next year. So it's better to just leave it in the house, keep earning more, right? And you can retire off of that. Maybe you need to move into, a different place because the house is too much for you. You might need to rent at that point. Then you have the $500K just sitting there, and you slowly take some money out, plus the retirement that you're going to earn to live off of. Yeah.
You take out a loan to put as a down payment off of your house, the house that you currently own, put as a down payment for a new mortgage. Would that work? Is that
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You mean buying houses to rent them? To rent, like being like a landlord?
Yeah.
Yeah. The interest rates are higher for those, and I think the down payment is higher than for your own house. But absolutely, yeah.
What if you own multiple houses personally?
Oh yeah.
So what if you're technically not renting it out to people, and you're just buying the houses and owning them, and then eventually selling them after making a lot of equity on them?
You could do that. The only thing is you would have to make the mortgage payments, and you'd have to maintain it.
Yep.
But did you know that just a vacant lot, just the property on it is super expensive? So if you just had like a lot in the city and just let it sit there, we have problems in the inner city, right, with a lot of derelict homes, right, like homes that are not being used. So somebody owns them, but they don't care about what happens to the house, right? Unfortunately, because they just want to sell it down the road and maybe profit off of it some. Can I just talk about this real quick? Because there's home equity line of credit. It's called this. Home equity, a HELOC. That you will most likely hear of this in life at some point. Home equity line of credit. And then there's the home equity loan, which is just hell. Sorry, it's actually what it is, right? So yeah, so they're very similar, but do you know what a line of credit is? Did you talk about this in grade 11 when you talked about credit cards and stuff? Yeah, this is what a line of credit is. It's basically, remember our equity was, let's say for example, you have 165K in equity. You could literally go, the bank has it there. It's like, use it whenever you want. You wanna go somewhere, you wanna go visit your relatives in a different country, you need 20 grand, just use it. Like just go and then you use 20 grand from this and just do whatever you want and just pay it back whenever you can. So there's no payment plan. It's just, you just use it as you wish. Interest will be accrued. They have this towards it. Whereas a loan, right, there are payments. So let's put down here, this one has no payments, no payment plan. Okay, this one has a payment plan. So if you take a loan, let's say you have some debt that you accrued when you were younger, you went to university, you have all this debt all over the place. You have some credit card debt, you have a car loan, you just want to combine them all into one big loan, you might want to do this, right? Can I just say here, this is big, this one right here, highlighting might do the trick. This is what we mean consolidate. Consolidate means lump them up. Lump all loans into one. That's what that means. Consolidate. You probably heard that in the radio. Do you still listen to radio these days? I don't know. Consolidate your debt. Consolidate your debt. It means if you have credit card, all these loans, put them into one. Yeah.
Do you know kind of what the interest is if you take out a chunk of your equity, like how much?
It's the same as your mortgage. So that's why it's a lot, because a car loan right now is probably 8-9%. Whereas if my mortgage right now is 1.97, they would probably give me close to that.
And say you had some sort of high interest savings account, do you think that there's a chance if the interest is higher in the savings account and you take out from your loan, you put it into the savings account and make money?
Some people do that. Some people take out money from here to invest it in the stock market. You gotta be comfortable with risk, because if it's gone, it's gone. Right now you owe them, but it's possible. Yeah, for sure. You know what? Opportunity is always there. Are you willing to take the risk? That's all it is. Okay. I'm gonna skip page 9 for now. We're gonna do a little bit of math here, because after all, it's a math course, right? I'm gonna hopefully by the time you graduate, I hope that there are some things you know about owning a house that I was never told. I found out the hard way. Okay, so I don't want you to find out the hard way. I want you to. Some of you might go to your parents or guardians. You might talk to them about this, and they're like, "How do you know that?" It's like, we learned that in school, right? So that's, hopefully you can have some conversations there. And here we go. Highlight this part. I don't know. I just like to highlight things that we've covered, right? Mortgage affordability, GDSR. GDSR, it sounds like a country or something, right? USSR, right? No, this is GDSR. So what you need to write down right next to this is put down the magic number 32%. So you remember that. What is this? Well, we're trying to figure out whether or not you're going to qualify for a mortgage, guys. So the gross debt service ratio, is a ratio that financial institutions use to see if you can afford, highlight that part, if you can afford a house. Okay. It compares the total cost of your mortgage payment, property taxes, and heating to your gross monthly income. And here's another one. The GDSR must not exceed 32%. Highlight that part. And this formula that is about to come your way is the formula for GDSR. This one is found on your formula sheet. The green one, I ordered more because I ran out. But if you have it, it's on your formula sheet. However, your formula sheet you cannot bring with you on the exam. You will get a brand new one. So this is why I would say put this on your study sheet, is I want you to highlight the monthly parts. It compares the monthly mortgage payment and the monthly property taxes, the monthly heating bill, compared to your monthly income, your gross monthly income. Anybody remember what gross is? Gross monthly income? It's before taxes are taken off. This is grade 11, no, grade 10. Remember your hourly pay, and you would find the gross, and then you would have to use these tables to find your taxes. Did you do that fun part? Oh man, it's so much fun, isn't it? Not. But you remember from annual to monthly, you gotta change everything to monthly. Okay, so we gotta divide by 12. If you ever see an annual amount or a yearly amount, you need to divide it by 12 to get it to monthly. This is why I would have it on my study sheet and not just go off of the formula sheet. Okay, some more here. Monthly housing costs must not be greater than 32%. So basically what you're trying to check is, do these payments here, are they going to be 32% or less of your income? You're comparing it. If someone's GDSR is greater than 32%, the bank will not approve the mortgage they applied for. So here's your income, right? And here's this chunk, about a third. I don't know if you caught that 32% is about a third. That's your housing costs, right? So there are 3 items which we call the housing costs. And you might think, wait a minute, Mr. Dirksen, there's way more than these 3 things in housing costs. Like there's maintenance, there's all these things. I know that, but this is the standard that they use across the banking institutions. I asked my banker when I renew, it's like, do you still use GDSR? They're like, yeah, we use it all the time. Okay, so it's an actual thing. And so the rest of the expenses are to go to, you need food, you need transportation, you need all that. Remember pie charts? You make those in grade 11? We won't do them, so don't worry about that. But there it is again. Okay, monthly housing costs. Is a loan, mortgage is a loan towards real estate. Remember in vehicle finance, we talked loans. Now we're going to talk mortgages. It's the same idea, just a bigger amount over a longer period of time. Okay, it's longer than a regular loan. Property taxes, right? All home or condominium owners need to pay this tax to the local municipality. It pays for infrastructure, road maintenance, snow removal, waste collection, education, and so forth. So this is, everybody pays this, guys. You may not know it, but it's thousands of dollars a year. Heating costs. Most houses are heated with natural gas or electricity. Both are provided by Manitoba Hydro. So here it is, guys. I appreciate you following along. Okay, so I wanted to highlight property taxes. I'm going to use green, sorry, because I already used orange. I want you to highlight property taxes with one color and heating costs with another color, because I'm going to show you how they come back. Okay. So to find the maximum monthly housing cost someone can afford, we just take the monthly income times 0.32. There's that 32% again, right? I would say have this on your study sheet as well. That's the maximum housing cost. You know what I will do right now? I like arrows. So basically what you're doing here is you're figuring out that chunk, that piece of the pie. You're figuring out like how much of your money is going towards the housing costs. Okay. And this is why I asked you to do the two different colors. If you want to know the maximum you can afford on a mortgage payment, you need to take what you just calculated here, and you need to take away the property taxes. Right? We did green there, so green comes here, and you need to take away the monthly heating costs. Just remember that housing is comprised of all three things. So if you just want the mortgage payment, just this part right here, you need to subtract heating and property taxes from it. Okay. Home finance or sleep? Anyways, let's go and do some math here. So let's come with me to page 11. So I talked a lot about concepts, and I know that you might think, no, I got this already, but I think it's important, and I will ask you to reference what you've learned. Okay, the olive years have a combined family income of 5,800. Okay, this gross before income taxes. What's the maximum they could spend on housing costs? Can I just say that a monthly, I have to be specific here, a monthly combined family income of 5,800 gross before taxes. What does it say combined, guys? Combined family income. What does that mean? It means that it's telling you from all sources. So anybody in the family that earns money can be combined in that income. So if it's right, the two partners making money, maybe one of them is getting some money from the government, maybe it's EI, maybe you get a check, like I always get a check for every kid that I have, I get a check sent every month from the government. So all of those things can be combined to come up with this income. It doesn't just have to be the one job, right? So any sources of income would be included there. What's the maximum they could spend on housing? So you go max housing. Remember, it's income times 0.32. You would have to be very careful. Does it ask for monthly or yearly? Okay. In this case, we're just going to settle with monthly. So it's the 5,800 times 32%, which is 0.32. And here it is. It's 1,856 per month. And what does this cover? So this could be mortgage, property tax, and heating, right? So those three components, that's what they can spend this much on those three components. That's it. Okay. You've just figured it out. Do we know what the mortgage is? No, we don't know what the property tax, we don't know that, but all three combined can only amount to this. Okay? And some of you if you apply for a house, you might get denied. The banker says, no, you can't. It's too much for you. You might think they're being mean, but they're actually protecting you from overspending, right? Because if you spend a house that you can't afford, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be house poor. That's what we call it, right? Like you own a house, but you can't afford to do anything else because you got to pay so much into your house. It's tough. Okay. So same family. All of you estimate that the houses they're looking for will cost approximately $180 on heating. That's important. And the property taxes will be approximately $3,800 annually or per year. You notice that one is per month, one is per year. You got to be careful. What is the maximum monthly mortgage payment they can afford? So we use that formula on the previous page. Maximum mortgage would be $1,856, like this amount here, minus heat, minus property tax. So we're going to go 1856 minus, we have the heating, which is $180, minus, what do we need to do to property taxes? That's right. So I will show it like this in my work to get it to monthly, right? Because this is yearly, 3,800 yearly. So we're going to divide by 12 to get it to a monthly amount. So that's 1856 minus 180 minus 3,800 divided by 12, 316.67. And now we can go ahead and subtract, right? So 1856 minus 180 minus 316.67. There it is, 1359.33. Okay, 13. This is the maximum they could afford to spend on a mortgage. And the mortgage calculators online, they allow you to go backwards. They're like, hey, if this is how much I can afford per month, what kind of a house can I be looking for? Like what price range can I look for? You can go backwards. So keep that in mind. Let's continue. This is probably one of the last. I might do one more. I think I'll ask you to do one after this. Xavier is wanting to buy a house with a property tax of $3,600 per year. The heating costs are estimated to be $250 per month. He looks up an online calculator and determines that the mortgage payments on his house or home to be $1,450 per month. He earns $5,500 per year. Watch this, guys. This is different. I'm going to ask you to calculate the Gdsr for Xavier. Okay? You're going to come up with what his Gdsr is. So step number one is to figure out, let's do that over here, Gdsr. Make sure you write this down. Monthly payment plus monthly taxes plus monthly heating divided by monthly income. That's the formula for Gdsr. You basically just need to be good at plugging in numbers. That's it. If you know how to plug in numbers, you're gonna be fine. So let's go ahead and do this. It's gonna be a bit messy, but I think we got it. Is our monthly payment already in, right? Do we have the monthly payment? Yes, we do. It's $1,450. So let's write down $1,450 plus monthly taxes. Those are property taxes right here. Do we have them in a monthly amount? Problem, right? And so what are we going to do with the 3,600? That's right. That's right. So I'm going to put it like that. Plus monthly heat. Do we have our heat in a monthly amount? The heating costs are estimated to be $250 per month. Yes. So we can just plug it in like that. You forgetting to divide would be a -1, right? So just be very careful, and you should be all right. Now we're going to figure out the monthly income. We have the yearly amount per year. So all we need to do is, it's going to look a little scary, but we're going to clean it up, okay? But I want you to see it to turn it into a monthly amount, right? Let's clean it up. 1,450 plus, that would be $300 a month, right? To 3,600 divided by 12, that's 300 plus 250 over 55,000 divided by 12. I get 45.83 through 33. So cleaned it up. Now I'm getting closer. You gotta add the top, 1,450 plus 300 plus 250. That's 2,000 even. So we just divide it. 45.83. It's basically saying your test score. I got this much out of this much. So we're trying to figure out, is the amount we spend on housing, is it going to be more than 32% or less than 32%? That's what we're trying to figure out. So you get 0.4364, right? And that would be 43.64%. Either one is appropriate, okay? Either one is appropriate to state. I tend to state it as a percentage, okay? So I go comma, it's kind of like a probability unit, right? This would be the answer in decimals. This would be the answer as a percent. What would you say as a banker? Is Xavier okay with that house? Overspending, 43%. So 32 is like your threshold. Over 32, no good. Less than 32, you're in business, right? So is it likely that Xavier will be approved for a mortgage? Explain. You must mention 32%. It's kind of like the expected value. If you just tell me, no, it's a small amount, shouldn't play, or yeah, should play, not good enough. Is it negative or positive for expected value? Here you have to mention the 32%. So we'll say not likely, comma, since his Gdsr is above 32%. That's all you need to say there. Why am I saying not likely? Because the banks have sneaky ways of still making it work. They might say, hey, do you have a person in your household that would like to co-sign for this mortgage? Maybe your parents? Because then technically their name is attached to this mortgage. They can include their income. So they could, like, you might be now comparing it to $100,000 a year, which is, right? So how can Xavier reduce the GDSR? Assume that he would like to buy a house in the same price range. So how can you get around this problem, basically? So here are some options, guys. Increase the income by getting another job, getting a cosigner, etc. Getting another job, it's not just like you go get a job and boom, you get the mortgage. You would have to probably show that you had that job for at least 6 months, right? So it would be a bit of a process. So you might lose that particular house you're interested in, but you could still be looking for houses in that price range if your income increases. You can increase the down payment. Because if you increase the down payment, guess what? That means that this number right here, your mortgage payment, will go down, right? You'll be spending less on housing per month. So increase the down payment would also do the trick. You cannot say change the property taxes. Because guess what? You and I do not have any power in that. I'll make a note. Can't change property taxes or heating. The heating costs, you have no control. So don't say I'm just going to turn down the heat. It's something they already estimated to be true. You can't change that. Okay. So I'm going to stop there. I would like you to try example 2 on page 12 before you go. Calculate that person's Gdsr. Remember, if you're good at plugging in numbers, you should be fine. Okay. Maybe I'll give you the answer. I'll write it down here. I'll give you the answer to that example just around Gdsr. I'm going to say it's 14.39%. That way you know whether or not you're on the right track. I'm not too worried right now. I'm worried about, can you get the answer, right? Down the road, I'll be concerned with